Well, hi, good morning. Thanks so much for joining me here in my shop. I was just getting things set up so we could do some more tests on this radio. I wanted to inject some controlled signals and take a look at a few things on the scope, especially that cutoff effect. I'm really interested in that. I'd like to know more about it before I start fixing things up. And I got to the point where I was getting ready to make my second oscilloscope connection. And I was considering connecting it basically across the volume control. That should provide a ground terminal for the scope and a place to connect to hear and see rather everything coming out of the detector, which is perhaps where this problem is developed. I don't really know for sure where it is. And hey, I saw something. I turn on my cameras like you see now, and let's take a look at what I found here. Maybe it's nothing, but with the close-up camera I'll find out for sure. Okay. So we're looking right around the volume control. You know, maybe this is just my own eyes having tricks played on them. Okay, so we're going in. So I'm looking at the lower terminal. And what all am I seeing here? It looks like that wire is cut. There's a uninsulated wire that appears to be cut and not connected to anything. I haven't touched it yet. Maybe it just goes around behind here. Yeah, that's probably what it probably goes around behind the black wire. That's probably what it is. How could it be cut? It can't be cut. Okay, let me poke at it. I think I solved my own mystery. No mystery. If this isn't connected, I would have to guess. Yeah, it's nothing. Okay, that was nothing. Can have it wrapped around there. These look like replacement connections. You see the tail sticking out on this connection? You know, in a factory setting, these kinds of things usually don't occur. They're usually wrapping it very carefully and cutting it clean. This doesn't look so good either. That comes back to my suspicion that this is a brand new volume control, especially because of that blue color out there. No blue color on the other one, that's for sure. Okay, so that was a pile of nothing, but it still remains an issue for me, really. Which one of these two controls? See, these are back-to-back controls, right? It's a dual knob. Which one's the volume control? That should be easy to figure out. That would be the one that has a terminal, an outside terminal, tied to ground. Now, I believe it's the inside shaft. That kind of makes sense to me. That would be the back-to-back unit. Would be the volume control. So one of the outside terminals on the volume control should go straight to ground. And my guess is it would be no, this one. But there's a capacitor going to ground here. You wouldn't put this terminal solid to ground with a capacitor going to ground. Or is this somebody's boob up? Now I've got the schematic for the 535 version of this radio. This is the 636, and it certainly shows a solid ground. Am I not seeing it? So this other wire down here going to the other outside terminal, that's no ground wire. That's no ground wire. That wire is actually conveying the audio. So that's basically the top. So the other end has to be the ground. It's certainly grounded signal-wise through this capacitor. But I think it should be grounded solid to the chassis. What's going on here? I think I better get the proper schematic here and take a look at it. Word is, Radio Museum has a good version of this. Just reading the writing on the back of that switch there. Yeah, boy, that wire really looks cut down there, doesn't it? swear that thing is cut. Oh, that seems really loose. I think it is cut. Let me just get my pliers out here. Son of a gun. Oh boy, I found it and then I almost lost it. Look at that. Well, that has to have implications on this radio. I mean, the wires are in there for a reason. Wow. I wonder if this is why I've had such confusion around which one's the volume control and which one's the tone control. Having maybe opened that lead, maybe that pretty much ends it. So let's see, that's the lead from the what? Hold on, let me get myself lined up here. So that lead is coming from the center post to one of the end posts. So I think the back one's the volume control. It's coming from the center of the volume control. You can see the capacitor there that's taking away the signal from the volume control. There's a resistor down there too, yellow resistor, and this wire goes over here to what has to be the tone control. Holy smokes. The stuff I find in these radios sometimes, and the part that kills me is that, it's largely working. I'm going to get the proper schematic and take a look at this, because I don't want to rely on the incorrect schematic here. That's really just a mind boggler. Okay, wow. Didn't I check this thing out before? I missed that first time around. I mean, who's looking for stuff like that? This is why I'm happy to spend time running around kind of randomly inside the back of these radios, because there's stuff in there to find, and until you find it, you don't know. You don't know it's there. Okay, schematic, let's get it. Okay, I got a hold of the schematic here from Radio Museum. Thank you very much. I'm a member of Radio Museum. Great resource. Fact is, volume control in this radio, the 636, is done quite different than the 535. They're not comparable. So let's take a closer look. Okay, so the volume control is here. Tone control is here. Zoom in just a little bit. Now, quite often in these radios, one side of the volume control potentiometer is grounded to the chassis or to, I suppose, maybe the negative bus, if the radio has one. This one is a little different. This one, so here's the audio coming out of the detector. It's coming through here, reaching the top of the volume control, and then a piece is being sliced off, fired back through the triode, and then on its way to the speaker. The bottom here is not connected directly to ground. It's connected to signal-wise, it's grounded through this capacitor, which I saw in there. But then it goes on through this resistor. Where's it going? Down here. So these two resistors look like voltage dividers to generate a bias voltage. Hey, isn't there problems with bias voltages in this radio? Hey, isn't that wire cut? What wire is it? We'll figure out in a minute which one of these wires is actually cut. So I just noticing, I'm seeing the schematic for the first time here. Here's another voltage divider arrangement down to the chassis, and then this is probably a bias voltage. Let's follow it all the way here and see where it goes. Goes up here, here, comes up here, attaches here, all the way to the grid. So there you are. So this is a bias technique. So in a sense, the chassis, get this right now, the chassis is floating. I don't want to say because I might get it wrong. But the chassis potential is slightly different because of this arrangement here. Okay, don't say any more because I'm probably not going to say it right. So let's figure out which one of these wires it is. In fact, I'll leave you looking at the schematic. I'll just take a peek at the radio here myself. So that's from the center terminal of one control to the end terminal of another control. So we look on here and we see from the center of one to the end of the other. This is the wire that's cut. This slider's not doing anything, but it sure seemed to whenever I turn those controls. Got to be a little more going on here. Yeah, you know what? The bottom of this control finds its way here to the chassis. Now, I don't know why. If you cut this wire, why would it matter where this slider is positioned? I don't know the answer to that. If you cut this wire, basically this is going to signal ground through this capacitor. You slide this upwards, you peel off more and more of the high frequencies and round them out. So if you move this up here and the wire's cut, it has no effect. If you move it down here, it has no effect anyway because it's just another path to the chassis through a capacitor. It's just like this one. Wow, okay, so what all is going on in here? Now, if the guy changed these two controls, he may have altered the wiring, either on purpose or by accident. And then he may have fudged around with it. That's the word I meant to say, fudge. He may have fudged around with it and got it to work, but actually miswired it. Well, I may be seeing a miswired version of this circuit in there. Another thing is, capacitors could be bad, they could be shorted, they could be open, and giving all these weird behaviors of this thing. So it strikes me, maybe one of the early things I need to do in this radio is really go through this whole area here and just refresh it. Maybe change a few of these capacitors. It looks like a 0.01. That's a picofarad, going to leave that. This is I can't really read it. I think that's a big one we saw. I think that's another big one there. Maybe I refresh this whole thing. And you know what else might be funny? Bias. Let's take a look at that. Is there bias getting through? I can't imagine. How can you wouldn't feed a bias right here? Bias voltage right here. Fed. Hey, what's going on here? Okay, so you can't be yeah, how's the weather? The weather's not so good today. It's Halloween today, but it should be okay by this evening. In case you want to trick or treat in Aurelia. So none of the DC effects over here can get through this capacitor and do anything over there. Wait a minute. What about this? What's this? What is this? It's connected there. So this is negative bus. Fairly big biasing resistor here. I'm really not sure what they're doing. Again, it looks like how are they biasing this thing? No cathode resistor. They're biasing it by, I can't believe it. They wouldn't bias the output tube just relying on grid leak bias, would they? You got me. That's about all I can say on that. What am I going to do here? So I just connect that wire back and see what happens. Maybe they'll fix up the radio 100%. Why wouldn't I fix that wire back? Well, what could go wrong? I'm just connecting this wire. Well, why would the guy operate the radio and cut the wire afterwards? That wire appears to be cut after being installed. Really? Why would that be? I mean, it's more likely the wire was cut for testing purposes and then he just lost track of it. He cut that wire to make it work better. Okay, let's go back to the radio here. Now sometimes, sometimes the mysteries in these radios really kind of throw me off. So why wouldn't we connect that wire? Let's take another look at it and just make sure it is what I believe it to be, in case I've misinterpreted it. From the center of the upper one, or the back one, can I call it that? The back control, front control. It's a capacitor off the middle, and see a resistor way down there off the middle. I'm just going to glance over at the schematic here. Just bear with me while I gotta get it on the screen again here, my own screen. There should be a capacitor off the end. There it is. This one here going to the chassis. And there could be a capacitor visible off the other end. Yeah. Nope. I'm confused. I reconfused myself. So you see this, the inside one, or the control that's closest to the apron there, we're looking right at. There's two black wires coming off that upper terminal. One goes to a capacitor there. The yellow one, where's the yellow one going? There's another capacitor. There's a picofarad capacitor there, hidden in behind. Two capacitors off of one terminal. Okay, so I'm looking for that now on the schematic. There they are. There they are. One looks like 0.01, the other one is picofarad, so that's it. So that's coming off the tone control, no doubt about it. So that front one is the tone control. I finally got that sorted out. Okay, so if that's the tone control, then off the bottom of the tone control, what? Off the bottom of the... So, okay. This isn't adding up. So that continuous wire that is cut. So going back to the what I think is the volume control, the middle post of the volume control, it should be going nowhere near the other control. What? What? Wait a minute. Wait. Should be, oh, this is really all turned around backwards and inside out, this connection. So I think there's big problems here. So this is too much for me to think about live on video, so I'm going to stop the video, I'm going to study this and try to come up with what has happened here. Is it all mucked up? Is that the story? Is it all mucked up? Okay, so maybe I've been poking around with this for half an hour now. Here's my sketch. I'm trying to draw pictorially what I see down here in the volume control. Let me switch cameras here. Okay, so the camera's looking into a mirror down here. Just that should be fairly obvious. Ding! Okay. What can I tell you? I am going totally berserk doing this because I'm pretty sure that this is all wrong. I think this has been replaced, And whoever did it messed it up something terrible, and it's causing me to lose brain cells trying to sort this thing out. So I've been doing this for almost half an hour and I'm still unsure which one of these is supposed to be the volume control. This one or this one. Now the fact is, on the schematic, which I have right here on paper, the volume control, has 4 tabs. It has one of those back tabs on it. The tone control does not. You see I've written numbers on there, 1, 2, 3, and 4, to try to help lessen the confusion. 4 represents the back tab. You see on the schematic, the way they've drawn it, they just a line crossing the resistor of the volume control, the potentiometer resistor. You can't see a dot there. But that is, you don't normally draw lines across components like that. That's a connection point. That's the back tab. There's 2 things coming off the back tab. This little capacitor over here. Is it little? I'm not sure. And a resistor. Not a resistor. Yeah, a resistor heading over to the bottom of the tone control. I'm not going to get into this with you because I'll just make your head come apart. But a couple of interesting thoughts. Is that why that resistor is all burned up? Because of these errors that were made here? Probably not, but who knows, right? Well, what happened here? This guy put this thing back together, discovered if he cut that one wire, this wire here, that things worked well enough that he could return the radio to the customer and feed his family. If you're doing this to earn money to feed your family, you're under pressure to move on all the time. And I could see a technician saying to himself after sticking an hour into this, I'm not making any money here, I can't feed my family. This is good enough, and abandon it. Return the radio with a new volume control on it, and the customer, well, I don't know, how happy would he be? Because I certainly discovered right off the bat that these 2 controls are really hard to sort out, and I think I know the reasons now. This comes around to another question: what am I going to do about it? I'll show you how mucked up this is, if I can. Can I? No. Because it'll just further fry my brain cells trying to explain what I can't explain, all this stuff here. Okay, enough looking at it. I'm going to get back to working on it some more. Just wanted to clear my head and maybe get a little catharsis going here by talking about my terror. The horror. The horror. Okay, I'm going to use a meter, so I thought I'd better turn on the video here. So what I've determined is there's a shielded cable leaving this terminal here, okay, which ultimately through a capacitor is coming from the top of what I believe to be the volume control. This is the back tab on it. Shielded there, and another shielded wire coming from the slider. Now that's pretty important. The slider shielded wire should go to the grid on the 6Q7. So I'm going to test that. I'm going to test that right now. Okay, so I've got my own meter there. Okay, so we're talking about center terminal here, and I got to get to the grid. Oh, the grid is okay, son of a gun. Nothing's ever easy. That tube has a can on it with a cap. There. Okay, cap off. There we go. Try again. Keep calm, Jim. This, it's just a matter of time, and I have lots of time to sort this out. Stay calm, cool, and collected. Okay, it's definitely a shielded wire I'm on, and we're trying to get contact with the top. Oh, we see 0. Can you see it on the meter? Can you see it? Hold on. 0. There it is, 0. I'm waiting for the meter to do something. It's already done it. So that is definitely going to the grid cap. On the schematic, the grid cap is this wire coming to the slider of the volume control. Hey, something appears to be correct here. Okay, I'm going to carry on because this will drive you nuts listening to me. Okay, here's my final conclusion on all this. This is actually wired correctly. The cut wire shouldn't be cut. If I reconnect the cut wire here, the whole radio should work. A lot of the confusion in me trying to sort this out is that, you know, there's lots of opportunities to make connections to terminals in different, like for instance, okay, this resistor. Well, it could be connected to this terminal. It can also be connected to this terminal. And that gives it quite a different look when you're staring in the back of the radio and trying to sort things out. So as it turns out, electrically, I believe the radio is wired correctly, and all that's missing is this connection here. So solder that connection. I think the radio is going to work much better. I'll bet you the bias problem is going to disappear. These are bias resistors here. See, they're kind of tied in. Wire cut. That's. I think this is really going to be kind of a simple thing. And I think today's video is just going to be this. Or at least I'll make this a separate video. You know what? You find these kinds of problems just by looking hard at the radio and spending time. Yeah, all that time stuff. Much time involved. So we're going to solder that in. How did he cut it? Anyway, what was going on here that he cut this wire? Do a bit of a lap joint there, which isn't necessarily the best thing, especially on a control that can wiggle a bit. So eventually he's going to put a little bit of mechanical working on the joint there, and if it's just a lap joint, it may give out. Take my meter here, shut it off, or we'll be listening to the warning. In case you missed it, I did a video on this meter, this particular meter, a separate video on it. That's the Mustool 82 MT8206. Okay, soldering iron. I don't know if I'm going to reach all the way there and solder. There's the solder. It's interesting. My plan today was to try to figure out why the radio apparently has bad bias somewhere. Apparently. And it turns out, just by luck, I think I found the answer. I would have had a hard time testing my way to this. That's for sure. And at a glance, you'd never see this thing. I don't know how good that is. The wire I just soldered to on the terminal is tacked on. So as soon as I melted the terminal solder, it came loose. Let's take a look at it. Let's get a little better focus here. Just hang on one sec. Force the focus on the camera. Whoa! That's barely done there. Maybe, I'm going to be doing all these parts here anyway, so just something temporary is all I need to do. I can put a better piece of wire in, but that's not good enough. That's not. But it probably is good enough. In fact, it doesn't take much to get electric flow between two metals Doesn't take much contact at all. Let's see how we're doing here. Whoop. Well, that looks a little better. Okay, that's good enough to try, I think. I'm holding a hot soldering iron in my hand here. Oop. Trying to work my mouse with my left hand. I've never mentioned that, but I'm regularly working my computer mouse with my left hand. That's why sometimes things I do take a little longer than you might imagine. Okay, I think we're ready to start this guy up. Strain relief this a little bit. Good. Now I do have my scope hooked up. You guys have had the scope trace waiting all this time to see something. So my scope is hooked up to, what's it hooked up to? I've got it hooked up to the speaker right on the voice coil wires, in fact, underneath there. Not necessarily the greatest way to treat your speaker. And what else have I got going here? What's this here for? I don't know. This is the signal generator output coming from my signal generator. It's not hooked up or turned on. So basically this is a lousy antenna right now. Right, it's just open. And turn the volume down because we might get a big surprise here. Incidentally, I'll prove which controls which. So this outside control turns the potentiometer with the back tab, which should be the volume control. So volume on the outside, tone on the inside. Both turned counterclockwise to the max. My other scope lead is right here. It's not hooked up to anything. What would we hook it up to? For fun? For fun and pleasure, we'll hook it up to nothing right now. Just want to hear that the radio works dramatically differently than it did before. That's what I really want to hear. So, you know, I really do want to have an let's put the outdoor antenna on this thing. Why not? Just move this over here. Another great evening on my ham radio, by the way. Working with my antenna reminds me of what I was doing yesterday evening using FT8 on the ham radio. Hey, lots of fun. So hopefully my antenna is switched back to here. It may not be. I may have to run down and switch a switch. Okay, I think we can turn it on. Let's plug it in. Hey, I remember to plug it in this time. Okay, on the dim light, I have made a change to the radio. Somebody cut it. Why would they cut it? They cut that wire because smoke came out of that resistor, and they cut the wire and the smoke went away and they were happy. I soldered the wire. Smoke going to issue from that resistor. Is that possible? You know, if there's a shorted capacitor in here, yeah, that's actually possible. That it made this little change. Now, hopefully, if it's going to smoke a resistor, we'll somehow detect it in the lights here, but I wouldn't bet on it. Doesn't take too many watts to smoke it up. Now, what I could do, oh, that's good, smoke it up. Smoking up is illegal in this country now. I can do this. 22, is that the temperature in here? 22, is something warm around here? What's warm? There we are, 33 on the screen. Yeah, it's warm. Ready to go? Restriction on, here we go. Everybody ready, bright lights, power off on, everything normal, everything working normal. Normal. If this is going to be a serious problem, the heat will show up right away. What's that? What's that sound? What is that sound? Oh, you know what? Look what's happened here. The reason the cat is here is because of the beep that came out of this meter. Because there's a laser. Now, cat, you got to be really careful around here today. There's some hot stuff going on here. In fact, this is really the worst time you could have come up here. This is the worst time. Cat's wondering why. Well, that's a big thumbs up. Now let's put it on full power here. Cat, just be careful now. I can't keep my eye on everything. What are you doing back there? No, don't go back there. Okay, power's off for a moment while the cat. See, I grabbed the cat, but you know what happens when you grab a cat? The cat grabs everything around it, and that could be pretty ugly. So I'm forced to take a brief break here. A cat break. But you can't stay back there, Shadow. Oh, you know what? I could get her to jump down if I just send the laser beam on this thing out yonder. Let's do that, because as much as I like having my cat around and all that, watch now. I'm gonna shoot it. Look, I haven't even shot it yet. She's watch. Here we go. And she's gone. Let me get her right up the door here. Okay. So I shot the laser down into our rec room. She's gone. She'll be looking for that laser beam now for the next 15 minutes. Okay, back to the radio. Power on restricted. Everything normal. Power on full. Really, to think a wire is cut in the volume control, that's like the last thing I would go looking for. Just lucky. Actually, not lucky. Actually, that's not luck. Luck happens when preparedness meets opportunity. So I was mentally prepared to find something because I was looking around. Yeah. And the opportunity was the wire presented itself. So, luck. You can manufacture luck by being prepared ahead of time for when the opportunity is going to come. And you'll say, oh, that was lucky. Not really. Not really. Okay, let's tune the radio. 640. Where'd it go? So my antenna is probably not switched on. So I think 640 is right around there. I hear it a bit. I'm going to go down and make sure my antenna is switched on. Doesn't sound like that made much difference. Maybe a little bit. I walked past my cat who was still looking for the... maybe that's a little better. What we need to find out is what about that choppy sound, all those weird behaviors? All gone. Wow. Okay, what I'm gonna hook up the loop antenna to drive a strong radio signal into the radio so we can hear what this really sounds like. Where's my loop antenna? Gotta go get it. Okay. So my shadow is camped out now at the location, at the last known location of the red laser dot from my thermal gun. Okay, so this is a loop antenna connection here. You must close the loop. Put the ground on here. Okay, nothing too exciting happening yet. Let's get this on here so it won't come off. Bit of a heavy wire here. Let me strain relieve it before I have a wire drop right into the back of the radio. Oh, here's a little story. Years ago, I went to buy a TV. A long time ago. And my wife and I went to a store that sells cheap stuff. Cheap stuff store. We bought a TV, sight unseen, in the box. We didn't even have one on display. That's how cheap the store was. Got it home, and within an hour I'd ruined the TV. And what I was doing was I was hooking some wires up to the speaker to have an extension speaker. And from the front of the TV, something, I can't remember the exact details of the story now, but a wire came loose or something like that. And so I decided to draw the wire up over the top of the TV and start working with it again. I would then get back under it, get around behind it. So as I pulled it up, the bare wires touched the chassis. I can't remember the details of this, but that contact blew the sound out of the TV just like that. The same day we brought the TV home. Shame on me, I took it back and said the TV doesn't work. Shame on me. That's like one of the few times in my life where I really done something like that. And got another TV, brought it home. Did not do anything to it after that. So see, just so the point is, the wire drops in just a momentary contact is long enough, certainly with transistorized equipment, to pop something. Okay, let's get this guy going. Oh, beautiful.
Hi, Mike Stafford here, and I look forward to having you join me on my next vacation, a tour of Ireland with
Okay, I'm going to cut back the microphones, and I'm going to cut back the microphones in the shop and blast this thing for a bit. Microphone's back.
Don't want to miss, so call and reserve your seat for the presentation November 29th here in Chorus T. I'll be there, so come say hi. RSVP Transat Travel Brookfield Place, 416-979-9300. That's 416-979-9300. Learn how you can be debt-free 24 hours a day at stevewelker.ca or call me, Steve Welker, licensed insolvency trustee, for free advice. Watching the roads for us. It is time to check that drive with Chopper Traffic, brought to you by employment.ca. Brighter out there. Is that helping much on the roads?
Not really, Matt, unfortunately. It's still slower than it normally would be at this time of the morning. Everyone's just being extra cautious, which is a good thing. And we do have some good news, at least two, for the 401. Westbound collectors at Leslie, we had a stalled vehicle. This is affecting two left lanes. That scene is cleared away. But still issues on the go a little further west. Westbound Express at Renforth, a stalled vehicle. Two left lanes are blocked there as they work to get the stalled vehicle cleared away. For the 427, good news as well. Southbound at Dixon, there was some flooding in the right lane. MTO crews took care of that. In town, we still have closures for water main repairs on Commissioner Street, just west of Carlaw. Royal York is still...
Commissioner Street, just west of Carlaw, is just about exactly where I used to work in Toronto. It's down on an abandoned part of the waterfront, or a sort of industrial part of the waterfront in Toronto, right near the sewer treatment plant. That's where I used to work. Not the sewer treatment plant, although I was in there once. I got a little bit of a story about that. Let me tell it to you. So I was working for the power company in Toronto, and we had some trouble at the sewer treatment plant. The sewage treatment plant was for the entire city of Toronto. You know, there's 3 million people there, so it's a big plant, and everything flows down in there. So when I went in to talk to some engineer there or something about some concern about the electric supply, which I don't remember, I said to him, "Have you got time to give me a quick tour?" He said, "Sure." So this is what I thought would happen. I thought we would go, you know, to where stuff is coming into the treatment plant, and he would start talking about the effluent. He said the effluent comes in here, but no, this is what he said. The shit comes in here, the shit flows through there, then the shit comes up here, and on. There you go, flying. Shame on me. Wild hands. So anyway, I just thought it was so funny, and you want to hear one last part of this story? So he took me to this tank, and coming out of this tank, trundling out of this tank, is what amounts to a conveyor belt. Not a rubber conveyor belt, but a conveyor belt with, would look like a screen, kind of. A large screen, 6 feet wide, trundling up out of the water, and then whatever's on the screen dumping into some kind of container or whatever. He goes, "Hey, have a look at that." I looked at that screen, and probably half the stuff coming up on that screen was condoms. Okay, enough of that story. That's enough. That's enough. We don't need to talk about... That's a pretty poopy story, so I'll get away from that. So, story is here.
Lawyer, I'm a regulated Canadian immigration.
Sound quality excellent at lower volumes. If I turn the volume up high enough, some pretty horrid distortions come in here, especially that last thing I did with the treble turned up. I really blasted in here. It was hurting my ears. So lots of volume, terrible distortion. So what's causing that? Probably 5 different things are causing that. So as we proceed through the radio from here, knocking off capacitors, we might encounter exactly what's causing that kind of distortion. I don't know. We will see. But wow, today, super successful. Really great. Really lucky. Well, that's right. No such thing as luck. Okay, I've got to go play with my cats. Thanks so much for watching, and see you tomorrow.